Welcome to the Yankee Recap podcast, where we talk all things Yankee and sports related content. My name is Frankie Crespo, alongside with the best co host in the world, Tio Kum. And we're two New Yorkers who love all things sports. And today, I bring disappointment. Well, the Yankees do. I'm just here to talk about it. And honestly, I don't think it's a surprise if you've been watching the Yankees games how disappointing it kind of has been. There's nothing like getting swept by your most iconic rivals, historically. Yes, the Red Sox swept us in this past series. We did win the Detroit series, which is great. And we do play Detroit again tonight for another three-game set, I believe. Um, but the biggest disappointment is just kind of that the Yankees continue to show that they seem like a weak team. They don't seem to be really put together the way that they were early in the season, and a lot of the players have been bringing a lot of disappointment. Um, and I don't really see how the Yankees are making ways to improve themselves, which is again disappointing. Again, the deadline is just nearing ever closer. It's very it's kind of upsetting again. And the biggest thing for me is basically just seeing how the Yankees can make a full recovery after a sweep of like this. And I was wondering, what would you do for the Yankees' first steps to improve?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just like you can't make a full recovery from this. It's just like this coming into the series, taking 2 out of 3 from Detroit. It was just like that's expected from the Yankees, right? And now you're moving on to a Boston team in which we showed our dominance to last time, taking the sweep. So on paper, it should be like, oh, let's just do the same thing. If not, take one more game away. But this is a different team than it was 2 months ago, where it's like now half the freaking players are out because of the quote unquote June swoon. Most notably, Ryan McMahon was out with like a throat infection. So now you bring up Oswaldo Cabrera, who's finally back in from one of the most like kind of not devastating injuries. It was just more of like a scary injury at the time. I remember if you watch the Seattle game, he was like there was the whole ambulance thing that came onto the field. It was a mess. But anyways, now we're at a point where the Yankees have lost 3 straight games to the Boston Red Sox. Tampa takes back control of the division. And, I don't know where to really start. I think I'll start with the last game in particular with like the bullpen, where it's just like there is no bullpen identity. I know I have talked highly about the bullpen in April. There was that thing that I had with Camilo Duvall, where it's just like have some enthusiasm with Camilo Duvall, and he's shown his struggles, which is kind of expected. But now, we're starting to head into the trade deadline where it's just we really don't have a bullpen identity anymore. We found our identity where we're able to get a contact hitting in with our best power hitters out, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton.
Mhm.
But as I stated, it's just I'm struggling to see a bullpen identity here, where it's just like, and part of this might be Boone's fault, but looking back at a particular game, this new era of extra innings, it's a little bit more difficult to where you have probably a guaranteed run if you don't get a hit. And for some reason, we want to put in Fernando Cruz, who's just a weak contact hitter. He's not a big strikeout guy. I mean, he could use the splitter to get some strikeouts, but in the end of the day, he's not the biggest strikeout person. We lost that game 5-4, and I don't know how to feel about that because it's just like, why is Fernando Cruz in this game? He should not have been in this game. I get it. You want to maybe warm him up, but that was probably the worst selection out of anybody in there. Somehow Paul Blackburn did better than Fernando Cruz that game. And I get it. That's pressure. Pressure comes at the most worst moments inside, especially during this new era of extra innings. But again, weak contact pitcher, not a strikeout pitcher. You want to put in a strikeout pitcher? I'd much rather have Yarborough or Camilo Duvall there. It's just I don't get it. I'm losing my mind. I'm really losing my mind. I'm struggling to figure out how are we going to approach this trade dateline with an identity where we can't have at least a competent bullpen, really competent bullpen. It's the biggest thing. Bring Lagrange up. I would much rather see Lagrange up than just to see bullshit after bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. Like I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we share the same feelings. The biggest thing for me is just, yeah, you don't know who to blame anymore. Like you just see the Yankees play, you don't know who to blame anymore. I mean, of course, we could talk about the bullpen all day, but obviously, it's about who gets the more runs to win a game, obviously, and the hitting has just been absolutely, it's just not there, and I mean, if the whole reason why you're losing games is because one guy is out, then this team was never gonna be good enough to do something amazing this season. Okay, as great as Judge is, he shouldn't be the only reason why you win games. That's just the truth because that's not how baseball works. Baseball, to win a game, you have to have multiple good players, multiple good position players, multiple good pitchers, and it just doesn't seem like the Yankees have that anymore. Again, earlier in the season, maybe you could say that, well, we have Rice, we have Bellinger, Jazz is gonna heat up. We still had Stanton, we still had everyone like was nice and healthy. There's some guys who have been great additions to this team. Goldschmidt has really had a resurgence and really has been showing off like, okay, this is why this guy was an MVP. This is why this guy is going to be a Hall of Famer in the future because you see what he has done. He's really stepped up in an amazing way, that you don't expect from a guy at his age and sort of a guy who didn't really play a lot of games last season, especially with the emergence of Ben Rice. And then of course Ben Rice, he's in a slump. Bellinger's in a slump. Jazz is still not the way that we wished he was. Um, Again, the All Star break is around the corner, and the Yankees have, like, do you feel like anybody's like a true All Star? I do have one guy in mind, and obviously that's Cam. Cam has been just such a great player this season, and he's been arguably the most exciting Yankee to watch, all throughout, the Yankees season so far. And I don't think anybody can deny that, as despite Rice's struggles, that he's still such an exciting player. But to be an all-star, to be like an all-star caliber team, you need to have all-star caliber players, and it just doesn't feel like that, honestly, from the Yankees. Um, you know, we could break down the games. I don't know, like it's kind of
What is there
traumatizing.
to break down? I mean,
There's
it's
nothing.
just the
That's
same
exactly
thing
why.
time after time. Three straight games where the Yankees only got 3 hits. We've been we've got no hit back to back games by Sonny Gray and Tolley. There's
It's
just it's a
disgusting.
key they're this is the pattern that they keep on facing where it's just they're not taking the takes well. They're swinging and missing a whole bunch of times because they're just not taking those takes. You know what I mean? Like I get it. Baseball is not the best sport. And what I mean by that is just like, there's gonna be days where it's just gonna be rough and there's days where you're gonna just have the greatest time out there. But I don't know how many times I've said this, but it's just all about taking those takes. Try to get yourself back into a rhythm. But the most important thing in my mind is just like, 3 hits is unacceptable. Three
Mhm.
hits is just unacceptable. I mean, not only just one time, you do it again, it's just like, okay, maybe we could get into the better rhythm. Another and the final game, it was just like that's how we got our rhythm was just with Aroldis Chapman with all pitchers. Even though he's 38, he could still throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, and somehow we're able to hit that more than every other pitcher in this. Like, I don't get it. There seems to be an inconsistency just because there's just so many injuries and we're just adding more and more players. We added Ali Sanchez back onto the rotation. We added Schumann. We're adding Oswaldo Cabrera now because McMahon is out. So it's all about just finding a rhythm in my mind. And the rhythm this was a series where this game could have figured out how to find a rhythm, but instead you get swept by the Boston Red Sox. And this is me just coping because it's just like this should have not have happened. This really should have not have happened. At the very least, last game should have been a win. But because there's this lack of consistency from both the bullpen and not even just the bullpen, the pitching rotation, the bullpen, and the hitting does not make a good winning baseball team. It doesn't. It really doesn't, and it's frustrating. But that's what the Yankees are in right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to mention actually. Yeah, I mean, the starting pitching has just been kind of awful too recently. And of course, that's not completely their fault. Not all of their runs that they give up are earned runs. The defense comes into a part of that also. The Yankees still have defensive struggles at times. Um, of course, if you're playing Rosario at third, you're not going to have the amazing defense of Ryan McMahon, and Ryan McMahon is out and Caballero's coming back from a pretty, again, grotesque injury. And so I don't know how he's going to end up playing. You still have Volpe out there playing shortstop practically every day. Um, they said that they would try him at second base, but how can you keep Jazz out this lineup? No matter how much Jazz is going to struggle, he's just too important to kind of get rid of, especially if he refuses to play any other position. Um, which again, I'll always have a problem with. I think something amazing about baseball is that most players play more than one position. You know, I think the only players who typically have an excuse not to play more than one position are players who are either older, like veteran players. Like I don't expect Paul Goldschmidt to ever play anything besides first base because guess what? He's a Gold Glove first baseman. I wouldn't want him to put him anywhere else, anyways. But look at a guy like Bellinger who plays all three outfield positions and plays first base. To me, that's a complete player. Again, even with his struggles recently, he's gonna come back. He always does. He's a great player. He's having a little bit of a tough time right now, but that's fine. You know, I think I'm sure if they asked Rice to play catcher, that he will play catcher.
Yeah.
Despite, again, say what you will about Rice potentially playing catcher, if this is a guy that they said, "Oh, he's a potential catcher for the future of the Yankees." That's what they said at one point. Okay? Now he's a potential first baseman. But now he's really been playing a lot of DH.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to figure out like where is this guy going to be most pivotal, most important. Um I mean, out of all the position players right now, I think you kind of had like Spencer Jones still really struggling. Like again, I'm glad his defense is good because besides that, it's really just kind of hard to watch. Jason Dominguez has to be the guy that I'm like, wow, like just absolutely terrible. Like he just can't hit. He can't really play defense. Like it just doesn't look good, you know. It's just like, again, you look at the players that the Yankees have gotten rid of who could potentially play in that position, and it's kind of embarrassing because we've kept. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's just you want this guy to succeed so bad. I want all the Yankees to succeed, of course, because they're playing for the Yankees. I want all of them to do well. But it's like when at a certain point, like when do you call it like, oh, you know what? Maybe it's time. Like it's time to really like decide like, is this what we want from our team? Is this what we want from our players? Because
Yeah.
if you have a player who's going 0 for 4, who's a switch hitter, by the way, he's a switch hitter, can't hit from any of the sides currently. This is a guy who last season that he was playing a lot of games, he hit better from the left side. Oh, coming into this season, oh, now he hits better from the right side. Now he can't hit at all. So what's the point of being a switch hitter?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. Uh, you could really call out a lot of players right now. Again, the brightest spots right now is Ali Sanchez. He's been a surprise. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. He's hitting pretty well. He's a good catcher. He seems to have good chemistry with the pitchers. And obviously Cam and Paul Goldschmidt. And yeah, I mean, besides that, there's not much else you can say. It's just it just drives you crazy. It drives you crazy. Like when I was watching the game, I felt much more anger and whatever. But it's like you kind of have to accept like this is just what the Yankees are doing right now. Again, like tonight they played the Tigers again, and you kind of just hope that they continue to have success against the Tigers at least, and that we're just not going to carry the struggle from getting sweeps because it's gross. It's just a gross feeling from the Yankees right now, honestly.
Right. There's a lot of problems, and we've touched on the catching position in particular the most in this channel. Now, I still think that Ali Sanchez should be at least a starter over Austin Wells because at this point, Austin Wells is just not have been contributing much to this lineup. And I get it, Ben Rice is that catching position, but also at the same time, it's like we have to keep in mind that catching is just a very hard position to play just because you're putting so much pressure on your arms and your entire body itself. So it's a big risk, big reward, and I know Ben Rice would probably, if he got the opportunity to play catcher, he'll say yeah in a heartbeat. But listen, Ali Sanchez is honestly the good backup. He's really the only righty catcher from our catching bullpen that is a bit of a consistent hitter. He's finally gotten into a better flow, and really, I just hope that the Yankees are able to find themselves consistency because consistency matters the most. But, 3 straight games where it's just we've been 3 hit is just unacceptable. It's just really unacceptable, and, I hope that this was a big lesson for the Yankees to learn. It's just like your power hitters are not coming back anytime soon. So now you gotta figure out your contact identity. You need to start figuring out how are we gonna take better takes on the mound. Because swinging at every single fucking pitch is not gonna make a difference. It's just not. We saw the last game in particular, Aroldis Chapman up to the bat. That's when the Yankees was like, bam, I was able to find something to work with. Big lesson to learn from this series here. Moving on to Detroit, this should be another series where you take at least 2 out of 3. If you don't take 2 out of 3, then there is a huge, huge problem with this roster. Not that there is a problem with a roster already, but I mean, this is Detroit. You know what I mean? You can't have shit in Detroit. You can't. No, you can't. You really can't have
True.
anything
No,
in
it's true.
Detroit.
It's true. Yeah, definitely.
Can't have the 1 seed. You can't have a
Mm-mm.
championship. You can't have anything in Detroit these days.
Yeah, honestly, out of all the big news, coming out of the Red Sox series, I guess, the most important thing is like I have to mention it, it's just too important. Like the Venezuelan um earthquakes and just the terrible accidents that have happened over there. It's just obviously it's devastated a lot of places around baseball, a lot of places where, Venezuelans they have kind of a place there. And honestly, it's just one of those things where it's like it's hard to watch when you know that there's so many great Venezuelan baseball players, so many great Venezuelan just people, honestly, that have been affected by this, really have affected a lot of people around the MLB and especially around just around the world where anywhere where Venezuelans are. And when you look at the Red Sox series, Wilson Contreras obviously was there, and he seemed to have been really affected by this. There was an accident, an incident really, where Will Warren accidentally hit him. I want to say it was an accident because, in my opinion, I don't think it was on purpose. I don't see Will Warren doing something like this on purpose, um, where he kind of just threw what was inside. But the thing is, Contreras was just so deep into the box. He was basically his hands were basically in the strike zone. um, I think the umpire should have called Wilson Contreras out on that before Will Warren was even set to pitch, anyways. So I think that was just miscommunication. Will Warren actually got a warning for that, which I thought was also pretty wrong in my opinion. I just don't see how something like that can happen. It's pretty embarrassing from the officiating, but I do feel bad obviously for the incidents that have taken place. And obviously you just have to wish for the best and that everyone who has been affected by this, hopefully they can get help and the support that they need. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's a dark note right now, but that's the good thing about baseball. It's just you have a platform to finally speak up about the things that have happened around the world, and um, you kind of get to hear the voices of the people who are usually unheard. And I think it's nice that players like Wilson Contreras and his brother William, that they can find ways to basically grow the support for Venezuela, and just knowing that like these people are important, because of course they're important, and that there's these things going on in the world which hopefully, you could find the time and space to find, that you can support also, um and we do also have to mention one thing, kind of just to make things a lot more lighthearted, and we could have some good laughs about it. We do finally have to talk about the Mets again.
My ban
Honestly,
is lifted. My ban is lifted. I banned myself 1 month ago. It's the ban is finally lifted, so we can now talk about the Mets officially.
yeah, exactly. And honestly, with the Mets, it's kind of embarrassing. Like honestly, and like the big news obviously is that they fired their manager Carlos Mendoza. And it's funny because obviously there were speculations that they would get rid of him, and I remember talking about that here on the podcast, and kind of sharing my thoughts that it's not really his fault. If he gets fired, it's really a political thing where it's like, oh, you can't blame the players because if not, you lose one of your star players or something like that. Uh, you can't blame the owner, you can't blame the GM, so you have to blame the manager. And my first thought was when he did officially got let go was just, so the Yankees, not the Yankees, but the Mets have officially like stated like, oh, we suck. Like we officially suck and there's nothing that we can really do. Like I don't even know if you want to consider that if the Mets are in a rebuild mode, because the thing is, it's just like, what are you gonna do to fix yourself this season? Or are you basically saying, okay, this is a loss, like this whole season's a loss, we just gotta move on to the next?
I think the season was a loss. Honestly, the moment that Pete Alonso. I think. Well, actually, no. I think the first domino was the Brandon Nimmo trade for Marcus Simeon, and like I struggle with the Mets because it's just like, well, what you expect were to happen? You did a hard reset. You know what I mean? It's just like the David Stern moved too many pieces in this scenario. He grabbed a bunch of infielders who are granted decent ball players, but it's just like really the only thing that you should have focused on was your starting rotation, because Noah McLean is just your only top pitcher right now. Freddie Peralta has been off and on. And listen, you can keep Freddie Peralta, that's fine. But Kodai Senga, and it's hard for me to say because I do like Kodai Senga a lot, but Kodai Senga is not a good pitcher. He can pitch. He's a good pitcher. He's reliable, but he gets injured all the time, and he's not a good starting pitcher. And it's unfortunate because it's like I remember back in 2023, it was a big thing for him to come over all the way from Japan with the Go Sinker, and now it's an ultimate other disaster for the team. I do think the Mets have some good young talent. I think Carson Bench has been a great player. I think AJ Ewing is a good rookie. But I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. That's what happens you do when you do a hard reset. I'm I don't understand Stern's move with like moving all of these domino pieces. I think the Bo Bichette signing was just because, Kyle Tucker was to get traded to the Dodgers, not traded, he was signed by the Dodgers. So in the heat of the moment, because the Mets were in with the Kyle Tucker scenario, they just grabbed Bo Bichette as the quick backup, which Bo Bichette is a good player, don't get me wrong, but it's just like chemistry is what matters the most in baseball, whether you're a Yankee, whether it's on the Yankees, whatever it's on, especially the Dodgers, whether it's on any baseball team or really any sports team, chemistry is what matters the most. I mean, hell, just watch Ted Lasso and just you'll get a little feel for chemistry. But the Mets is just really the biggest thing they just needed to focus on was just re-signing the players and just figure out a new pitching rotation. But of course, because this is the Mets, they never do that. Then I don't think they will for a while, unfortunately. So because it's just like, man, I remember watching Mets games from 2024 to 2025, and it's just like attending them, what it would be for the Subway Series or for any other scenario. It just felt like a different vibe. You know what I mean, Frankie? Like it was just like an energetic game. Like if you went to a Mets game, you're going to a party. You know what I mean? Like you got the OMG sign, you got all this great food that the Mets sell. Now it's just like if you go to a Mets game, and maybe this is because maybe because Steve Cohen is a corporate guy in the end of the day. But it feels like I'm just going to a corporate meeting when I'm going to a Mets game. Like everything just feels so bland. Because his team is just so bland because it's just like there's no chemistry. There's really no chemistry. Is that crazy to say?
No, that's not crazy to say at all. I mean, if we're gonna talk about what the Mets have done in the past few seasons, I mean, like you said, like it did seem like a party. I had gone to a few City Field games, in my little time at City Field. You know, uh, Jose Iglesias, when he was on the Mets, it seemed like every day that the Mets won was a great day. And again, not a Mets fan, but there's something nice about when you watch a baseball game and you see players who are excited to play the game. That they have smiles on their faces, they seem happy to win. They want to win. They have this drive to be a great team. And that's something that you could admire about any great baseball team. And the Mets have not had that since. And you could blame it on a lot of things. You could blame it on injuries, blame it on mismanagement, blame it on your manager, whatever you want to do. But it's just like Lindor is just. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. You hear stories about Lindor. He seems like a little bit of a diva.
A
It
little
seems
bit.
like, yeah, not
A
maybe
little
just
bit.
even a little bit, maybe a little bit more than
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, remember the rat incident like
oh no,
in
oh excuse me,
2021?
was it a rat or was it a raccoon? That was the argument. Remember
Rat raccoon.
with
I think it
McNeil.
was a little more than that.
Yeah, and obviously, in my opinion, I'm pretty sure McNeil beat him up. Because you remember watching those post game interviews because Lindor seemed so upset, and then McNeil just had a big old smile on his face, and he just felt good about answering everything.
Which
So
is
I just have
funny
a
because it's like
feeling,
McNeil's an older guy than Lindor. Just
you
put
know,
Lindor in his place.
I think he really did, and I think that really ever since that's kind of embarrassed. Like the Mets have always have embarrassing moments. That's just what the Mets do, LOL Mets. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, also you spend all this money picking up Soto. We don't really bring up Soto because what is there to bring up? Like he doesn't really play a lot of games. He hasn't showed up, in big moments really this season at all. Of course, that's part of that is because of his injuries, but still, like when he has played, it's just really not extraordinary at all. It's kind of lackluster, and it's just one of those things where it's like, Boba Fett was like the laughing stock of the Mets the beginning of the season. He was hitting below 100. I remember he was hitting like .71 or something like that at one point of the season, one part of the season, and I was just like, this guy is really just he went from something good in Toronto to something terrible in New York, and it's
Yeah.
just you don't know what to say. Yeah, the pitching sucks for the Mets. I don't know one like let me see relievers does Devin Williams still pitch for them
He does. And
or okay.
he's a not the greatest pitcher of all time, but like, he'll play every now and then and he'll try his best.
Of course, because that's what he does, right? I mean, he tries his best. I don't know. Like, there's not a lot of relievers that I know. Obviously, you brought up their best pitcher, Noah McLean. There's a guy that you can see like the Mets trying to build around. They even got rid of what's his name recently? I think he got traded to Philadelphia or something like that. Oh, dang.
Oh no, it was to the Cubs. It was to
To
the
the
Cubs. I
Cubs.
forgot the trade in mind. I could look it up while you're talking.
Yes. Yeah, because honestly, it was one of those things where it's like, so are the Mets trying to be good, or are the Mets just trying to sell off all their like decent players, just trying to make space for something else? Because you really don't know what they're gonna really do, and it's just one of those things where it's like, just in case you ever think that you have it bad, you could just look at the Mets and be like, okay, that's what a unsuccessful organization really looks like.
I mean, if that's too much of a disrespect. If you want to give any more, listen. If you want to give any more of it, oh, I don't want to be there. It's the Rockies. I mean, they're more terrible than the Mets right now. Mets are
That's true.
dysfunctional. Rockies is just,
I
and
guess
it
that's
sucks
true.
because it's like Colorado is such a good sports town in a way. I mean, you got the
Yes, it
Avalanche,
is.
you got the Nuggets, you got the Broncos. And then you have the Rockies.
One
Then you
day,
got the
listen,
Rockies.
I promise you the Rockies will one day be great. You know, they do have some nice players over there, so it will not surprise me if one season there's just like a really well, maybe it'll be a little bit of a shocking winning season, you know, but it's just hard to win in Colorado, so just got to see what happens with them, obviously. And
Yeah, like I don't. The Rockies are just like in a very bad situation. It's just like they don't have a good farming system. They don't have a good amount of players. Their record is one of the worst in baseball right now, 33-51. I think that is the worst record right now. It's just like it's just hell. You're in hell. That's literally what it is. And it's just like the Rockies just need to reset. They just need to fire everybody, get rid of everybody except for maybe Hunter Goodman, and just like refresh, start new. I don't know how you would start. That's not really my job. I'm not the Moneyball guy, but it's just like maybe hire somebody, anybody, really.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah, because oh, so it was David Peterson. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name, but yeah, I mean, he went to the Cubs and it's like, okay, so you just traded away somebody who's actually decent for you guys and you're giving it to somebody who's in the NL. You know, it's not like you're trading him away to some sort of American League team that needs pitching. Like, no, the Cubs are there. Like the Cubs are people that you should be trying to compete with, you know. And you just got rid of a decent pitcher when you're having pitching struggles. So it's just
right,
I don't know what the Mets are trying to do. If they're like they haven't officially stated that, oh, look, we're looking to rebuild. Like, of course they did do a rebuild, but I mean, if you look at the additions, again, the additions that they have made, none of them have really worked out, like at all.
right.
Again, their most exciting players are the players that they had to call up because there's no one else for them to play. Like they needed a new outfielder. They needed two new outfielders. They got Ewing and they got the other one that you mentioned also. What's his name?
Carson Bench.
Carson Bench, which they're great. You know, they've been great so far. And then, you know, they have that first baseman who's also pretty decent. Um, you know, he's great. I don't even know what's their catching situation. Like, I don't know. I remember Francisco Alvarez was such an exciting catcher, and I don't know what happened to him, really, honestly. I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries from the past few seasons, so I'm sure that's a part of it. And again, you know, I think your cornerstone is obviously Lindor, and it's just seemed like Lindor. I don't know if it's something wrong with like he excited to play for the Mets anymore? I honestly can't say. Um, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like I don't see the enthusiasm that I want to see from like a winning baseball team, and it's just and the Mets obviously, in my opinion, are not a winning baseball team, and that's just the way they play also, and you could really see it.
Yeah, I mean, well said. That's really the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of baseball left, so it's about to be halftime, and in football terms, but it's about to be the half one point. 35-49 is not the best record in the world, but it's also not the worst record in the world. They have a lot
No.
of work to do if they want to get back on track. I think the Peterson trade in particular was just they have good hitters. It's just, another thing about the Mets, and it's very similar to the Yankees, is just like the errors are terrible. And they gave up 6 errors at one point, which is just like, how the hell do you even do that? Volpe can't even get you 6 errors. It's just like that is just a
Well,
bad
hold
team.
on now. I think we should knock on some wood just in case, but because you never know with a guy like him. But yeah, Volpe, you know, again, you know, I don't know. We'll just see what happens. He was on such a nice little streak when he first came back, and now it just seems like he's really settled in for something that's not that good anymore, you know, which is
Back to
disappointing.
our regular scheduled program when
Schedule
it comes to the
program, yep.
what I mean? It's like we got a little thing, we got a little sneak little treat what we could do with him.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's
So,
it for now. But all hope is not lost. I think Volpe will has some time to. I mean, he's had a lot. I'm not even going to give him an excuse. It's just about getting himself back into a little consistency. And overall, like I said, the Yankees just need to get back on track. You're playing Detroit. This should be a winnable series for you guys. Of course, you guys watching, you guys are going to play later and then they'll take on the Twins, which is just another team where it's just like the Twins aren't the worst team in the world, but like this is a team that you should like. There should be no excuse, and that's really it. That's really it in terms of the sports world. It's just about getting back on track. Mm, Tampa has had their little stretches where it's just like, oh, let's just try to sneak in and take our AL East. No, the East is ours. We'll stay that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just want to see good from the Yankees again. Like it's really disappointing to lose completely to the Red Sox again. Like that's never a good feeling. Historic rivals, just especially again with that last game. You're right. That last game was really disappointing, especially when it was such a close game. And to lose it in that fashion is just a really bad feeling, of course.
Yeah, add another AL East championship banner to our 3,500 to 6,000 banners of AL East win. But that will be it. That is the end of this week's episode. Thank you so much for your support, taking time out of your day to listen to two Puerto Ricans yapping about sports. I'm sure that's great for you. And you know what? I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you get to take time out of your day just to listen to it. So catch us next week. We'll talk about more sports content, see what happens in the sports world after a week of just pure baseball. So then, this is Dieter Kuhn, and that's Guy Frankie Crespo signing out for this week's episode. Goodbye.